Welcome to Shh, Tell Me Everything. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Shh, Tell Me Everything. This is Kristy, your host, and I'm really excited today to be joined by my darling friend, Charlotte Elkstrom, who is going to share some fabulous secret to all of life. I mean, that's a big introduction, but not that big, with us today. So I wanted to say welcome, Charlotte. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
And I feel like Charlotte and I, we could talk maybe all day, every day. She's like a kindred spirit. We could totally talk about anything. Let me look. Okay, so I asked Charlotte, I was like, Charlotte, like, do you want me to like read your bio or like, how do you want me to introduce you? Because there's many, many things to Charlotte. So she sent me as my favorite. She sent me like the detailed list. She's like, pick what you want. So I'm going to pick what I want. So this woman is very accomplished and very smart and the mother of 6 and runs a very, integral business to our community here in North Ogden. They own like the pizza shop that's been here for a while. Like all of my childhood and growing up has been defined by Pizza Man and their presence in our community. And she and her husband own that and run that. But separately, I'm going to pick some things that I loved here, Charlotte. So I do appreciate the athletic letter in basketball. I do. And you're very tall, so that was probably very good.
That was how I got started into basketball. Mrs. B put me on the team as a 7th grader because I was tall. She actually confessed to me. It's like, really, you couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. But, you you can't teach tall. So here I was.
So you're signed up. That's it. Okay. And I did not know this one. You were Miss North Ogden 1991. I didn't know that. Charlotte, there should be is there a photo somewhere? Why does the city office have photos? Because they should. Like,
it's in the North Ogden Museum. So
too far away.
Go in there,
okay, I can see it in the museum.
The corner, but yeah, the historical museum has the historical. Or I have one. My husband has it in his office either too. So.
Okay. I'm gonna have to find this photo. I love it. I got to know Charlotte while she was serving on our city council for our city, and was a phenomenal force there. I could not. It's my dream to get her to run for everything, but I guess sometimes she has to take a break. So hopefully we'll get her to run for something again in the future. We'll see. Although like that's a lot of work because like people, that's a whole separate thing. Okay, people. Okay, but very interesting things. That. I know. We'll get into that. So very smart. You graduated from Utah State University, magna cum laude in accounting. Runs the business here. 6 children. Also like a trainer and teacher for hot yoga, which I love so much. I love it. Your greatest challenge and joy is motherhood to 6 incredible and monumentally different individuals. We've talked a lot about that too. I love that. The kids are all so different.
I don't know how they all came out of the same gene pool. Sometimes I look at them like, okay.
But Charlotte, you have just grown to be one of my very favorite people. And I feel like I'm constantly learning from you. And you are a source that I feel like I could go to you and you would also tell me the truth. And you would help me to find some understanding in if I feel strongly about something, you could help bounce some ideas off of it. Because I find you to be one of the wise people in my life that is also like living in reality. Because you got to be smart, but also live in reality. Otherwise, like, what does the smart do? And I feel like you live in reality and can help deal with regular people and see things the way they are. But okay, we're going to move on.
That's an awesome compliment. Thank you.
Right? No, because you're just amazing. So Charlotte, I just want to turn over to you. Maybe you could I gave that a little bio. Maybe just take like a second and fill in the gaps. There's lots of gaps. What else would you like to maybe share about yourself and your life and what's happening right now? Before we get into having you teach us the main thing.
Well, it's just get me started. In fact,
okay, we'll do that. I love it.
There's like an Abraham Lincoln quote that I really like. It's like, if you want me to talk for an hour, I need a week to prepare. If you want me to talk for a half an hour, I need 2 weeks to prepare. But if you want me to talk all day, I can start right now.
I can start right now. Well, then let's do that. So Charlotte, I'm just going to invite you to tell me everything. I can't wait to hear what you have to teach us. So Charlotte, teach us. What are you here to teach us?
Fantastic. So I can probably just start with the evolution of my approach to life, right? I think I grew up, and if you read like all of my accomplishments, I started out with like the Queen Brownie Point Stacker, right? It's like I was just all about like, oh, I have to do this and this and this and this to succeed. And I, push hard and, it's to internalize everything and like, oh, failure is terrible. Oh, terrible. And then
not just anyone gets to Miss North Ogden 1991. I mean, really, that is actually a cutthroat competition. Like seriously, that is the Queen Brownie Stacker right there.
Indeed. In high school, I was just, all of the accomplishments, and I'm a gender sterling scholar. I was like, state finalist there. So anyway, it was just kind of like all about this achievement. And I was just, really achievement driven. And then I had children. There is one thing that kids don't care about is what you've achieved in your life.
They don't care. Those
They
kids
really
do not
don't
care.
care.
Mhm.
And especially, it's like, I don't know, the Lord just sent me these really, really different individuals. And if there is anything that has taught me to deal with the public at large, it is all of the characteristics that I have been embodied in each of my children. And so the thing that I come away from, it's like, what is the, my telling me everything lesson in life is never take yourself too seriously. It's like, just embrace the ridiculousness that is the human condition.
And that is,
So,
and that's consistent. Like that's the consistency, right? Like it's ridiculous all the time. It's going to be happening no matter what. Like,
absolutely.
let's embrace it. So tell me, did you always think this, or how did you come to this?
No, I think it's just, life just kind of comes at you. There you go.
Yes, that
See,
too.
that's
Yes.
it. You just have to kind of like, when you say everybody has inherent weakness, I've adopted in the Book of Mormon, Ether chapter 12, verse 27. It's like, wherefore I give unto men weakness. And it's like that weakness is inherent in all of us, right? And so it's like, just embrace it. It's like, it's part of the package. And here's another just like life lesson that I found. And this is just like, according to me, I believe every person has an equal and balanced set of strengths and weaknesses. Strengths and weaknesses, they are balanced. And some people's strengths are really, really obvious. In fact, one thing is like, people will tell me, it's like, oh, you're good at everything. It's like, no, I'm good at everything you can see.
That's a good response. That's a very good response.
Right?
Yep.
And so it's like, yeah, all of my strengths are really, really obvious. But let me tell you, I have just as many weaknesses, and they correspond.
Yeah.
Honestly, they really, really do. So, and I take that anytime I meet a person, it's like they're this whole world. To me, it's like any individual is just this world that I can discover. And sometimes the people's strengths are really obvious. And I'm like, oh, I want to learn from them. Or sometimes people's like, oh, you got some, that's really obnoxious.
That's
their
a really
weakness is
obvious
a really
one right
obvious
there.
one.
Yep.
And so it's like, I try to approach everyone with curiosity. It's like, okay, I can see this. What else is behind it? And I've just found that people are just incredibly interesting. I think they're so fun. And because of that, I guess, approach that I take and view, I love everybody. I really do. I just love them. And I have found that I like most people. The commandment is to love. You just don't have to like everybody.
Right. But you gotta love them. You don't have to like everybody.
It's like my mantra, people are funny.
People are funny.
People
that's a good
are funny.
That's a good response. People are funny.
It's like, and we get along best with people whose funniness is compatible with our funniness. So
that's a good way, right? Because we're all a little funny. And I'd really stick out. I would be the weirdo in a lot of circles. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
we each would, right? Like we'd be super weird depending on the circle that we're in.
That's another thing I say. So it's like everybody is somebody else's weirdo.
Oh God.
It just is. So,
But
it's like, I love everybody. I like most people, but I only trust some. People, trust is a very different thing. It's one thing to love somebody, and it is quite another thing entirely to trust them. Trust is built over time and with experience. And you can find that, certain people are trustworthy all the time. Some people are trustworthy in some things, and some people you just know are not trustworthy at all. And you love them over there.
You can love them over there, right?
Yep, exactly.
Well, I remember as I first
fantastic.
got to know you, I've met you years before, but getting to know you while you were serving on the city council, and I am I'm not a super political person. I like involvement. I like community. I'm not necessarily political. But I've been to a couple of city council meetings. I don't know if anyone has ever been to any local city council meeting. I don't know a more hostile environment, and not always. I'm not like
It
and there's
really
like
is.
like it, and like you would go and like no matter what it was, like no matter there's somebody there and they are very angry about something. And I've maybe one day I'll be the person there. So I'm not saying don't go be the angry person. I'm saying okay, just this is what it is, right?
It is.
There will and I even drive by like the city council building where they meet and just like get anxiety for everyone in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, the pitchforks are out. Like I don't even know what the issues are. It doesn't matter. There will always be something, and the people come, and it's just like, wow. And I thought, gosh, how does she sit through that? And it's not even like it's just think the Wild West. Okay, the Wild West. What are we even talking about? But like with people, you're just dealing with people, and you're able to do it calmly, but also like not like in a I got bowled over kind of a way. You know what I mean? Like, no, like you still were thoughtful and still made decisions. And instead of like, I come from mostly a people pleasing. I want everybody to be happy. Like, can't we just make everybody happy? Like, throw a party, give these people some food. Like, it's all going to be fine, right? Well, it is until you're talking about like property lines, and then it's not. Like, so it makes me like anxious to think about like, oh, this person today is angry, and just make them happy. But you've got to be able to stand your ground. And it's amazing to watch you in that position, and in showing it. It must be from this curiosity and love position for people, because otherwise I would have like gone away crying or just never come back. Like I don't have time for this, you crazy people. Like I don't know what I would have done, but like you were able. And again, it's people. I'm the crazy person too. So I'm not saying that crazy person individually. We're all the crazy person at times in our lives.
Crazy.
We're all crazy, but
We're all our own brand of crazy.
we are our own. We are our own. And if we think we're not, we are. It's like my aunt would always say, when you go to college, you will always have one crazy roommate. And if you don't, then you are the crazy roommate. It's you. Like you just know that. So I'm curious. I would love to hear a little bit of your experiences there too, like in the public sector, but now also maybe in the business world, of like how you being curious and you loving people like has impacted what you were able to do, or even just to tolerate. Like, again, like hats off to anybody that's willing to throw their hat in the ring at a local level, because it seems so terrible. But tell me more.
It's so funny. Really, I don't know. Have you ever watched the show Parks and Recreation? It's
Yes.
hilarious.
Yes, I love
But
it. And it's so
those
true.
public forums, the character Anne, she said, I don't know what happens to me when I get in that room. I turn into somebody else. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what happens. There are people that have come in. I have known them my whole life. I am a North Ogden native. It's like, I've known these people forever. And it's like, you're a generally reasonable person. I know you outside of this room. It's like, and so you just have to really understand that people get triggered. And I have to tell you this story. We got this dog. It's like, bear with me here. I'm going to get around to
Okay.
this.
I love it. Yep.
So we got this dog. We adopted him from Best Friends Animal Shelter, right? And it seemed like he was a great dog, very fun. We brought him home. It was really for my son, who just really wanted a dog. Well, anyway, we get him in, and he turns into just this crazy, like neurotic, violent, like, you look at him and he looks up at you, this beautiful brown eyes, and one ear up and the other ear down, and then you go to pet him and he goes, and they were like, whoa! And he would bite people. So anyway, it was like, okay, we got to get rid of this dog. Oh, got to get rid of the dog. It's like,
yeah. What have we done? What have we done?
What have we done? So we call in this essentially dog therapist, right? It's like she's a really well-known trainer. We got her referred from the Humane Society. She comes, and it takes her probably 6 months before she can even get in the room with the dog. So she is training us about what is going on with him, right? So, and she gives us like all of this training, and it's like, oh, wow, this is the same thing with people,
Right.
It's like, he gets triggered. It's like people have triggers, and it's like I'm looking at my own trigger sometimes. I'm like, that is the weirdest trigger. Why does that bother me? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
why am I so angry right now?
why? Yes, why am I triggered? But
Interesting.
yeah, so we see this with the dog, and then we can see it happening. It's like he gets triggered by something, and then his tail stops wagging, and then his ears flatten down, and then he's baring his teeth. And each time it's triggered, it stacks.
Mm-hmm.
So the triggers, if you don't relax him after you see the first one, then they just build up until the point that they are what's called over threshold. And when you get over threshold, it flips into a different part of the brain, and you are no longer in like reason, cognitive thinking. You're in fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is what happens with people. They've gotten, over triggered,
Yeah.
and then suddenly, and it's usually unmet expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Unmet expectations just will ruin all of your happiness in your life. It just will. And so a lot of times when people are coming in and they are upset, they really want to be validated that, that they are important. It's like, whatever it is that they're upset about is really usually not that important. But it's like that person is important
Mm-hmm.
and their feelings are important. And so you validate how they're feeling, and that's fine. But, a lot of times we did the same thing with the training with the dog. It's called look at that training. It's distracting them from whatever it is that's triggering them to something else. It's like, oh, look at that. So a lot of times you can do that with upset people just to get them talking about some experience that is positive for them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, people would come into city council. It's like, well, tell me about your experience with North Ogden. Tell me, what do you really love about living in North Ogden?
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, oh yeah, I guess, and it's like, okay, well now we've got this issue, and
That's a
these are
good
the
place to
options that we
start.
can
Yes.
do, and so it's like, oh, okay, because there are so many times it's like, I'm sorry, it's like we can't legislate for that particular thing that is going to really be good for you. Sometimes, it's like sometimes things work out great for you, and sometimes it sucks for you. And it's
Yeah.
going to be,
And we
then
really
sometimes it's
can't.
gonna
We
be,
can't give you what you want. Like you just can't. Yeah.
no. That is the interesting thing about legislating is like it has to cover the blanket. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, that is why I really love local government and trying to keep things more on the local level, because even as homogenous as North Ogden is, we still have enough diversity that it is very difficult to legislate for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
It's like it's going to be great for some and going to suck for somebody else.
Yep.
And then I think about that as each level of government increases, where you've got more diversity of people at the
Mhm.
state level and worst at the national level, where they're trying to blanket everybody. And it's like,
It's impossible. Like it's
it
impossible.
is impossible.
Yeah.
And the more government we get on that higher level, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it goes to Milton Friedman's principles of economic efficiency, right? It's like the most efficient spending is your money on
Mhm.
yourself. And about equal is somebody else's money on yourself, or your money on somebody else. And then the least efficient is somebody else's money on somebody
On
else.
somebody else, which is what
National
basically
politics.
that is
Yes.
national politics. Isn't that so true? And that helps. I feel like I've not known where I fit politically. We live in a conservative state. We're in Utah, it's a conservative place, and I feel
Mhm.
fairly conservative. That was how I was raised
Right.
until I get to local politics, and then I feel like I could be pitchforked out of town because
Oh, yeah.
I do believe that we should have a park. And I
Yes.
or things like that, where I don't know what I am and I don't know how I fit, because to these people, it's like, it's so contrary, it doesn't fit. Well, because it doesn't fit. What you're saying describes how I feel. While we have in the local area, we have the most control. So I would spend my money here to build a
Exactly.
park and feel a lot better about it than blanket throwing money somewhere else to someone who doesn't know me, who doesn't know us, to spend it on things I don't really know about.
Absolutely.
That seems like the scarier.
And people's opinions are so different, especially when it comes to money.
Yes.
It's money to me is a tool, and it should be utilized for the good of the community, right? And
Yeah.
and you invest. It's an investment, and it's hard to describe to someone that doesn't understand the principle of investing in something versus just spending. It's
Yes.
no, they're spending with purpose, and trying to get people that are really just, their whole approach is do not spend money.
Yeah. Well, and very utility.
So-
The money,
Mhm.
the only thing for money is to buy. If I need 5 staplers, I buy 5 staplers. The money can be spent on the 5
Yep.
staplers. Is very different than how could we use the resource that we have to build something or invest in something or create something? You know what I mean? Like we're changing it versus what do we want to create? You know, like,
Absolutely.
but I think to myself, I thought of this too in our local community. Like if it was just me, I'm a social person and I like people. And
Oh, yeah.
if I was just like somewhere in the world living by myself, I would want to live in a community and I would want to pool some resources and I would
Mhm.
want to have some shared things. Like I would, like that, I would want to do that. And I suppose there are people who would not want to do that. And they could want to just be absolutely on their own, right? But for me,
In
like
which case,
I
that
want
is
to
the
do
great
those
thing about
things.
America.
Yeah.
If you want to go live out on the ranch by yourself, it's like, you have the opportunity. But if you want, live in a community, there are costs and benefits to everything, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's a cost and a benefit to living in a community. And if you really don't like neighbors, it's
Right?
probably
Like,
best you just don't.
well, that's like you could
But
live somewhere and hate the HOA forever because you hate the amenities. You don't care about those. Or you could be fine with your HOA because you love the amenities and you love what it's
yes,
providing. And you're happy that you didn't have to do this on your own, like
exactly.
maybe sometimes we're just in the wrong spot. Like, I think that sometimes too when I think about like employees and at work, like I believe everybody really is inherently good and has talent. I
Mhm.
don't think anybody needs to have the skill set to do a certain job, like from a moral perspective. Like there's nothing right or wrong that maybe you're a really good tax preparer or not. Like you could be or you could not be. But
Right.
you know what I mean? Like and that actually doesn't matter in the universe.
Absolutely.
But in this specific space, if you're being terrible,
Mhm.
it's just not a right fit, right? Like
It's
and
not the right
I don't think
fit.
you're bad, but you're probably just not in the right spot, right? Like you got to be at a spot where you want to be and where you can be great at. Otherwise it's not going to fit.
Absolutely.
And maybe
And
that's
that's
like with
and
our
that's
local
how we're
communities too.
designed, right? It's like people are designed to fit together, right? And I had a very wise friend, my friend Jana Amundsen, who said, "In our strengths we serve each other, and in our weaknesses we connect with each other." And I thought that was
Mhm.
so beautiful because really we're trying to find where our strengths and weaknesses can be utilized, right? And we find where it's like, "Oh, there are certain things that I am just really terrible at."
Yeah.
It's
Me
like,
too.
I'm
Oh yeah.
bad. It's like, don't put me in charge of that.
It's actually
It's
they
so
asked me to be the treasurer at the PTA and I was like, this is not the good job for me. Like I know accounting, but like I won't care. I won't care about the $20 reimbursement form. So I'm not going to do it right. Like I'm so like don't have it be me because I just
Mhm.
know I will do a terrible job. Like I just oh yeah.
And I'm a terrible record keeper, right? It's like, it's so funny because
So you
it's
do a
like,
terrible job too. Okay.
don't put me as the historian. Like,
Yes.
I'm the last I never remember to take pictures of stuff.
Yes.
It's like I go into an
way
event
after the
and I'm
fact.
like,
Oops.
even now, when it's like on your phone, all you have to do is whip it out, take a picture, record it for posterity. I'm like, oh, I forgot to take photos
Still didn't do it. Still
all
didn't do
the
it.
time. Don't have me keep track of time. Like,
Okay, this is good to know. Okay.
I am terrible. It's like I have a perpetual, I call it my punctuality disorder. I always think I can get one more thing done before I go. And so constantly I'm running late. I saw this picture of a clock once that just made me laugh. It had all of the numbers just, scrambled on them. And it said, oh, whatever, I'm late anyway.
Oh, whatever.
And I so much appreciate people that are good at it, right? They
Yes.
can say, Charlotte, come on, it's
Mhm.
time to go. It's like, okay, a little bit, time to go. People that are good at yard work. It's like, I hate it.
And
I
some are
kill
really good at
plants,
it. Yes.
right?
I
And I
can't keep
drive by
anything alive.
people's houses. In fact, this is a funny trigger. I'm just going to like true confessions, get a little vulnerable. It's like, I hate it when someone gives me a potted plant.
Oh.
And I'm like,
Because
because
like you
all I
know
think
what's
is,
gonna happen. You know what's gonna
yes,
happen.
yes. I think,
Yeah.
oh, you've sent it here to die. And I just feel bad because it's like, okay, I overwater, I both over and underwater, right? It's like, oh, it's kind of wilting. I better, and then I overwater. Anyway, I have yet to keep a plant alive for more than like 2 months.
Yeah. No, it wasn't meant to be.
It's just terrible. And then I'm like, oh, I feel bad. But, people that can have these beautiful yards that they just meticulously care for and everything. And I just think, oh, look at that. That's wonderful. Brings me joy.
right?
And it was like,
And I can
thank you for doing the thing that you love to do because that brings me joy. I love to see anybody that's good at anything do it. Like a
yes, isn't that
bricklayer. Have you ever
fun?
seen a bricklayer? Like bricklayers that can work, they're amazing. Welders, it's like kind of all of these handy things. Like I am just like all of the trades.
Well, but it
I
reminds me of you
am not
saying this
handy. But
curiosity, right? Like if you're curious, like, wow, this is
yes.
interesting. Like look at what they're able to do. That's really, really interesting. And I couldn't do that. Well, I mean, like maybe if I changed my whole life and did 10 years of work, okay, fine. But as of right now, no, I can't do that. Like, and it's amazing to see what people can. I love watching when people are just like super into something. Like
Yes.
when they just love it. This reminds me of, okay, 5 years ago when when Brent died, someone very nice gifted my sister and her family tickets to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And it
Oh.
was a very nice thing. And like we got to go, it took a whole group of us. Well, I didn't realize I don't like rock music. I didn't really even know what Trans-Siberian Orchestra was. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I got there and it was like I was on a different planet and like I just didn't understand. And it was like the longest 3 hours of my life. And like I was just like, it was painful. But I looked around me and like people were into
Loving
it.
it.
And oh my gosh, they loved it so much. And so it was fascinating. I was like, I'm having this terrible experience and I'm looking around and this is the people's best day of their whole life. Isn't that fascinating?
Right?
Like it's fascinating because they are into it and I just
Oh,
don't
for
even get it,
sure.
but it's so interesting.
It's true. Another place to go for something like that is FanX.
Right.
Oh, those people they are so in their element. They have
Right?
just
Isn't
found,
that so fun? They
and
have
they
found
just,
it.
and
Yeah.
they love it. And and that kind of energy, it's just, you can't help but it's contagious.
It
You
is,
just
right?
like, I am not into any of these things, but it's like, but I'm so happy that you are, and you
But I'm
found the
so
other
happy. Right.
people.
You have your people. You found the
Yes.
people. Like you get to like
You found your tribe. And we love it. I love it.
isn't this a
It's
great
so
like
fantastic.
a great like we've reached this point. Think back to versus like in junior high school. It's like no, you had to like the same things or like the things were cool or like what was
Right.
like cool was so limited. I like now maybe this is why older people get like there's always like the grouchy aunt that does whatever she wants. Like, oh, I'm starting to understand that more. Like, yeah, she does whatever she wants and she doesn't care. Like that as you get older, you just stop caring. You don't care that nobody else likes it. You don't care that nobody else is into it. Like you start to be able to appreciate that other people can like their stuff, right? But I can like my stuff. I don't care if you think it's dumb.
Absolutely.
Like,
And the
that's great.
generational thing too. It's like we played this game. My family played this game last night. And because I'm a Generation Xer. My husband's for, kind of like the last edge of the baby boomers. And because I had a baby at 41, I've got millennials to Gen Y. Right.
You've got all of them.
So
Yep.
I've got all of them and having them there. So we played this game called Mind the Gap and it was hilarious. It's like, I have all of these things from all of these different generations and you're trying to answer questions based, on headlines and popular music, phrases and slang. Anyway, it was so funny because there were some things that were like, my daughter Callie is like singing this song. We're looking at her like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
No idea. Well, that happened to me. I went to
Oh.
actually, and now I love this singer. I didn't know who the singer was at the time, Benson Boone, who had a concert in Utah. Oh, this was like 6 months ago. And I didn't. My niece knew, so she got us tickets. We got to go. It's a really big deal. I don't know. Okay, when I showed up to the stadium, and it was just again fascinating because I looked around and every person there knew every word to every song.
Every song.
I was like,
right?
how? Everyone knows every word to every song, and it's like it just was a reminder of like, oh, some things are happening in the world that I'm not a part of, and it just keeps happening. It's like like there is life outside of my own little bubble and what I'm exposed to because every person in this stadium knows every word to every song, and I don't know any of them. Like it was just
Right?
fascinating. Like wow.
Yeah. Which is so funny because that brings me back to why people are funny. It's like we're ridiculous. We think we know stuff and we misinterpret, we misunderstand, we
Mhm.
mistake. It's like
All the
so
time.
much because there's just this whole gamut of like there's things that we think we know. And a lot of those we don't actually know. In fact,
No.
there's a saying that I heard a doctor say once when we were, dealing with my oldest son's ADD and Asperger's. He's like on the autism spectrum. And he was like, well, we used to think but now we know. It's like, okay, well, how long ago was it that what you now know was what
I know. Well, better is we
think.
we used to think we
Oh.
knew, and now we think. Okay,
And now we
Like,
think.
yeah, right. Like,
Yes, there's this section of what there is to know, of what
Yeah.
we think we know, and then there's what we know we don't know. It's like, I
Yeah.
know I don't know that. It's like, I
Yeah.
have no idea. And then there's this, massive section that is what we don't know, what that we don't even know we don't know.
oh, we right. We don't even know.
We
I just
don't
found
have
like
any idea. It's
so
blind
many
spot.
so many fewer no's, like no's is in the KNOW, right? Like
Yes.
super super no's, which I think that too. Like when I listen to anything back to like a politics or anything, like there's so much I don't know. I don't know anything, and I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm hearing of what I know. Like there's just so many uncertains of like sources of knowledge, where things are coming from. And I had a friend after this last election that was where I was talking to her, and I said I don't know what to do besides listen to people that think differently from each other, because otherwise I also don't know. So I don't, because I don't know. And everyone says I know this and this and this. Well, I actually don't know. I don't know. And I don't know that you know. I don't know who knows what. So I guess all I can do is try to expose myself to multiple people that think they know, and because everybody thinks they know, or you know what I mean? Like it's hard to navigate in a world where like so much is just presented as this is fact and we know, but we inherently know that we don't know. You know what I mean?
We really don't. And some people are really, really invested in being right.
Yes.
It's like they are really invested in being right. And
Well,
so
and when they've
whatever
come
they
that
want to
far,
tell
and they've come that
you-
far being right, it's just
Yes.
there's no flexibility. It's no, we're there.
And for that, I say, well, that's food for thought.
That's that's a good food for thought.
That's
Food for thought. That's always like my saying always
all
with clients is
right.
I'm just wow. I must wow, that is tricky. Oh wow, tricky. Interesting.
That is interesting.
That
Yes,
is
it
interesting.
is.
Right. Wow. Oh,
Oh, and sometimes people's perspective is, you sometimes just know people just are there. They don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you just kind of have to smile and nod and squirrel,
Yeah, and not worry about it. Like subject
Yeah.
change. We're not going to get anywhere with this conversation. Like
This is a conversation of no possibilities.
yeah,
We're
there
gonna
you
move
go.
on.
A conversation of no possibilities. Oh.
It just gets caught in a loop. Oh my goodness. I have a son that has oppositional defiance disorder. He's an actual national level debater. And
Oh,
boy,
probably
you
great
can
for that.
just-
Talk about being in the right
Oh.
spot, right? That's,
indeed. And boy, you can just go around and around and around.
he
with
is
him.
not
And he's
afraid
like-
to bump up against that. And yeah,
No,
there we go.
It's
Uh-huh.
not. And it's so funny. I'm like, Griffin, I want to introduce you to the concept of yes and. Because it's for him, it's always no but.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
like, yes, and you can
Yes,
actually
and.
agree and
Mhm.
with something someone says and continue on in a different vein or something different. But it's just like trying to get him to disagree without being disagreeable. So that's
Right?
interesting.
That will be a challenge for
Interesting way
life,
to
I'm
do.
sure. It's like,
Absolutely. And and he is so incredible in so many ways. It's just, and that's the thing. It's like it is the strength and the weakness thing. It's just we accept the whole package
Well, that's a
and
good.
we embrace it.
I'd never thought about it like that. We all have weaknesses, and yes, some people have more strengths. But you think, and okay, even the people with strengths have weaknesses. But usually, my mind is like, oh, those people are amazing, and all their strengths. I'm sure they have a little bit of weakness. Oh, sure, there's a little bit of weakness with all their paired strength. That it goes together. That this perfect of whatever's happening. No, like it would make way more sense that it's matched. You know what I mean? Like that it's
It is matched.
yeah.
And the goal, like what the quest of the lifetime is to move the fulcrum, right? It's like it's in the balance, but then if we can move that fulcrum and really and for me it's the savior. It's like you let the savior over, and then he lets weak things become strong. Right? It's like if we give our weaknesses to him and we work on them, it's like, okay, I acknowledge that's what it is. And I work on it. It's like I try, it's like I'm never going to be as good at it as someone who is actually good
No.
at it.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate that they're good at it. I can utilize the fact that they are and appreciate it, and also, have that as part of, the humility that is the strength, right? It's like being humble and being able to acknowledge someone else's strength. That's also a strength, right?
Yeah. That's a
And
that's a
so-
huge strength. Yeah.
So when we do that, it's like, okay, well, we can choose where we move that fulcrum. It's like we can just seed, our weaknesses and just like, I'm weak and I'm not going to do anything. Or you can say, you know what, I am weak there, but I'm going to work on it and I'm going to try. And anytime I have an opportunity to use a strength that can help someone else in their weakness, then it's like then we're both lifted, right?
Yeah.
It's just this wonderful symbiotic situation that we can, utilize and help and love one another. I mean, it's really just that's love. It's like when we can give and serve and whatever comes up, right? It's like you just, kind of be open. That's another like life lesson. It's like, yeah, another life lesson of Charlotte's. It's like life is like a girls' camp skit. Let me describe that. So it's like every morning, you think of the girls' camp skit where you're handed a bag of props
Of
and
random
you're supposed
stuff.
to make random stuff. And it's like you have to pull it out and you're supposed to make some sort of, performance with it. So every day you're handed a bag of situations. you
Yep.
And some of them are going to be familiar, you know exactly what to do with them. And some of them are going to be like totally random out of the blue. Some of them are going to be awful. Some of them are going to be great. And you just never know what you're going to get. But, it's your quest to make a day out of it, and you have your tools. It's like you have your skills that you build. We all are gifted time. We all have 24 hours in a day. What do we do with them? What do we do with those 24 hours? And it's really these daily habits that we get into that help us build skills so that time is utilized most effectively, right? I love the book Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read that, but
Yeah.
the quote from that is, you don't rise to the level of your aspirations or goals. You sink to the level of your systems. And
Mhm.
so it's like when you can habitize like the good things that you want to do to build your strength, then it's like when opportunities arise, then you're ready. It's like, okay, preparation is everything. Plans are nothing. Planning is everything. So it's like you're just constantly trying to build and work and do things and follow what you're interested in, right? It's like there's so many things that I find I'm curious about and would love to be good at. I'm just like, oh, but I only have time to do certain ones. And what I've had a tendency to do is I like focus really far on one for a while. It's like, I really want to be good at volleyball. So it's like I went and played volleyball like twice a week for years. And so it's like, oh, now I'm really good at volleyball. It's like not as good as like really good people at volleyball, but good
Right.
enough so that I could really enjoy playing volleyball. Same with playing the piano, singing. It's like whatever it is I want to skill. But I then have those. It's like I've got these skills kind of in my tool belt that
Mhm.
if someone needs my help, I'm able to do it. And then, and then I build relationships. And then when I'm in need, it's like, and it's not that it's going to be the same person, right? It's like, it's if your attitude, if my attitude is that I am here and I'm going to serve you however I can, then that's the energy that has gone forth. And then when I am in need, which we all will be, that is another aspect of the human condition. All of us are going to need help sometimes. And so that when I need help, I know that there are people that will help. I love Mr. Rogers. He's like, look for the helpers. It's like they're
I love
there.
that.
They're always there. I love it, love it, love it.
And
So
Charlotte,
it's like,
you are the helper. I feel like if you're one person that like I know, even when I didn't know you well, which I don't know you that well, like you could tell from the type of person that you were, even from beginning interactions, that if you needed help, you were a person that could be called. Like that Charlotte would show up, or she'd find someone to show up, or she'd find someone to help, right? Even if you couldn't help, you would help find the people that could help.
I can help find somebody. Yes, it's like, and that's the wonderful thing about being curious. It's like you find out what
Mhm.
people are really good at. So it's like, oh, you're good at that. That's awesome. Like, especially anything that's handy. Like people that are handy, like can fix stuff. Like that's amazing to me.
That's amazing, and we need them, and we
know.
need all of them.
Oh my goodness. It's like stuff breaks down and we have to do it. But yeah, anyway, it's comes back to like knowing whose you are, who you are. It's like once you know whose you are, it's like then you understand like the character and nature of your creator. Then you know who you are and you can embrace that. Like it's like just love that whole package that was put together intentionally. You are exactly as intended, right? With your package. And then you know what you're about. And then it's like, and I've written a little like mission statement, I guess, that I recite every morning. And it just reminds me about who I am, and what I'm about. And so I, that I just repeat that over and over again. And it just helps me remember when you wake up and you're like, oh.
Another bag of stuff. Another bag of stuff.
And I'm pulling this one out and I'm like, I'm not excited about this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but the approach is going to be the same, whatever it is. So it's like, that's how I'm going to go for it.
Well, I love it. I've got some great takeaways from this that I've gotten from what you've shared. Like really just like truly words of wisdom. Like you probably need not like a book, like a novel, although you could do like a novel. I could use like a one page is just like the one little quote and then like a little paragraph. I feel like you could do like a book of those of like, what are the Charlotte isms of all these little like nuggets of knowledge that like I could ponder one a day, because that is a really, yes. And we are a little weird. We're all a little weird. And these things are very, very wise. Charlotte, thank you so much for sharing them. And I know like I said, there's so much more. There's so much more that I would like to learn and that I hope to be able to keep learning from you. Well, Charlotte, that was so fun. So thank you so much for joining me today. That was great.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, it was wonderful. And thank you to our listeners today. And we will see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to an episode of Shh, Tell Me Everything. This podcast is proudly hosted by PackTax and produced by Techne Innovations. We drop new episodes 4 times a month, so be sure to subscribe and never miss out. See you next time, and keep those secrets coming.